Chris Eubank Jr., right, coming off the back of him signing that promotional deal with Team Sauerland, alright, gave an interview with Rob Tebbutt, Boxing Social, discussing basically what his upcoming plans are. So Eubank Jr. is going to be campaigning at middleweight. Now, to me, it's the perfect division for him, right? You look at super middleweight, ain't some of those guys huge, like flipping huge, and you can lose fights even if you're the better fighter from it. Well, not technically with Eubank, but even if you are, better in some aspects, you could easily look at Lomachenko. He was just, well, Tiafimo was a great fighter anyway, but his size was a big factor. So middleweight, I think, is good for Eubank. Nessa Sauerland, who is the more kind of grounded of the two Sauerlands, we'll call it that. He said that the top of the agenda is Triple G Genneday Golovkin. Okay, now Eubank Jr. came out and he said that exactly the same thing. That's the fight he wants. He says Triple G has a middleweight world title. That's what he wants. He basically said that, yeah, he was meant to have the fight a few years ago, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen. Right. Well, 4 years ago, nearly 4.5 years ago, would have been summer. Probably, it would have been about summer 2016. I think that fight would have took place in September. I think it would have took place the same time as Kell Brook versus Triple G did. But he was meant to... Look, that fight was pretty much a done deal. From what I could gather, it seemed good to go. And then, from what we're led to believe, the Eubanks are making some pretty crazy demands. I mean, I think they wanted to double the price of ticket sales. I remember, was it Eddie Hearn? Now, he could have said this jokingly, but Eubank Sr. is a bit out there. And I wouldn't rule him out saying that he wanted specifically Barry McGuigan to commentate in the fight. And I'm not sure if Barry McGuigan and Sky have had beef, or if Barry McGuigan and Eddie Hearn have had a bit of beef at the time, because I know Cyclone were doing quite well and a lot of Cyclone fighters were beating Matchroom fighters at the time. So I know that was never going to happen. It just seems a very bizarre kind of thing. And then, they said basically that Eubank Jr., quote unquote, lost his pen, and that was the end of that. That was all she wrote. Now, knowing what we know now and seeing how Eubank Jr.'s career has gone, it's stagnated over the last few years, it would be very easy to assume he would have lost that fight to Triple G. I think he would have got absolutely wiped out against Triple G. I think that Eubank froze in the MEN against George Groves. That was in 2018. It would have been the Pacto 2 with one of the best. Well, Triple G was still somewhat in his prime at the time. He was still performing very good. Although stylistically, even now, Triple G is not... It's a good fight for Eubank stylistically, because Triple G, if he decides to bull rush Eubank and, go full-blown, Mexican on Chris Eubank Jr., he's not going to have to go looking for Triple G. I suspect Triple G would have done that if they'd fought back in 2016, and I suspect the occasion would have got to Eubank Jr. as well, because that was a younger Eubank than the one who froze against George Groves. He wouldn't have even been 2 years removed from the freeze against Billy Joe, lest we forget, because he froze against Billy Joe in 2014. This would have been the end of 2016. It's about 2 years removed. So he was still affected. He was still having stage fright in bloody 2018. So it would have been wishful thinking to assume he would have been all right going into that Triple G fight. So now, but we fast forward to now, it's 2021. This is not the same Triple G of 2016. From my eyes, he has slowed down a little bit. He is showing signs of aging a little bit. I know he looked good in his last fight against the Polish guy, but that guy was really kind of European level. He wasn't going to trouble Triple G too much, and like he said, he wasn't much of a puncher, so Triple G kind of felt comfy to stand and trade with the guy, got the guy, dropped him several times, and was able to get rid of the guy. I don't know, I'd say Chris Eubank Jr. is wishful thinking. I think he'll get Golovkin. I mean, what does Eubank Jr. actually bring to the table? Not really anything. Yeah, a bit of fanfare in the UK, but like you'd imagine that fight, to try and do that in the States. Eubank's not got a big name in the States. I mean, he's fought in the States on Charlo's undercard, but that was, as I said, an undercard fight. Triple G today, if they did fight, I'd still make Triple G favourite. I think Triple G would use his jab. I think that Eubank, we've seen Eubank get a bit intimidated by punching power. We saw him get intimidated noticeably by George Groves and his punching power in that fight early on, when he felt a couple of those right hands from George Groves' graze. Remember, the jab dropped Eubank. He went down to a knee, but it was a knockdown. The referee didn't call it because he kind of walked into a jab. He kind of buckled a bit and then almost went down on one knee. That would have been a knockdown, I think, because the knee did touch. So Eubank Jr., even today, I would still pick Genneday Golovkin. Eubank Jr. can still do some work at 160, make no mistake about that. But guys like Triple G, depends who we're looking at moving forward as well. Like, I mean, who's got the WBC? Charlo, I wouldn't pick him against Charlo. Even Munguia, I think might have too much energy. I think Munguia, that'd be a hell of. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight actually, Munguia versus, because I think Munguia would just stand and trade with Eubank, and it's just a case of, can Munguia take the shot? Eubank's not a massive puncher. You know, he's not a massively concussive puncher. He's respectable power there. He is quite heavy-handed. Even George Groves said that. But I wonder how would Munguia cope with that? I mean, that'd be a fun fight, Munguia versus Eubank. Any of you look at the UK, you got guys like Liam Williams knocking around. That'd be a fun fight as well. So options there for Eubank at middleweight, you know, at 160 pounds. Triple G, can't say it. Not that, like, as I said, what does Eubank Jr. bring to the table? Triple G potentially could have a Canelo fight coming up some stage this year. So what incentive is there to go fight a Eubank Jr.? There's not really any. So be interested to see how that goes. Let me know your thoughts. Eubank Jr. potentially, you know, if he gets his way, Triple G. What do you think? Leave it in the comment section below. Hope you all enjoyed the video, lads. If you did, smash the like button. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't. If you're new to the channel, like the video, share it, all that good stuff, lads. #GMansRocks. I'll talk to you. Peace.